play at the concert band will open, which is pretty exciting. We took the opportunity, we have a local composer here in town who wrote a piece of music for us. This is something that is common to do in the band world, and we are lucky to have support from our music boosters to do something like this. Mr. Sam Morton has come in a couple times to work with the kids and talk about his piece and help us, point out the little things that he meant to bring out. And we worked really hard on it. We will hopefully have done our best to create his art into the vision that he had. So instead of me standing up here talking, Sam is here, so I'll invite him to come up and he will talk to you kind of about his piece and his process and all of that. So give a hand for Sam Morton. Come on.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here. It was such an immense joy working with Ms. Pauline and with all of your lovely students on this music. I wrote this last fall, and like Heidi mentioned, I came in a few times and got to talk to your students and rehearse the music with them as well. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear this. They've done a great job preparing it. So anyway, thanks for coming. I'd like to talk a little bit about myself and the music. So a year ago, I graduated from St. Olaf College, and I studied composition and theory there. And so, did my due diligence on learning how all your students' instruments work before I assigned them notes to play, which is probably something I should have done, right? So, concert band specifically, so I played trumpet growing up. And so I was always in a band environment. And so at St. Olaf, I was a part of their band, the St. Olaf Band. And I had the privilege as well to write a concert band piece for their band, which was the first band piece I had written, and that was performed a year ago. And so now this piece, here for Minnewaska band, this is now the second piece I've written. And so again, it's such an incredible thing to be able to write music. And I'm going to get a little bit more into how that works. How does someone go about putting notes, on a page for 33 parts and being able to create something that hopefully sounds cool. But after I graduated, I also had the privilege to study composition at a summer institute in Paris last summer as well. And since then, have continued to write for fun, and I've also had cool opportunities like this. So a little bit about composing. So I'll get into my music, but I want to talk about the process a little bit first. So really, when it comes to writing music, there's really, as far as I'm concerned, four main pillars or categories that you need to establish for the vision that you want to, put into the world as an oral experience. And the first is, what's the melody of your piece going to be? And, not all music nowadays has a melody to it, but I know as my grandpa would say, sometimes you want to go away being able to hum the tune. So, shout out. So there's melody. What do you want the primary theme of your piece to be? And then from there, it's number two, how are you going to use harmony in your music? How are you going to combine certain pitches to elevate that theme and really create it into something special? From there, number three would be rhythm. How are you going to use rhythmic elements to also support your melody? And from there, after you kind of create a bunch of musical ideas, number four, I would say, is orchestration itself, which is assigning those musical ideas to the actual instruments that are going to be playing the music. Because as you can imagine, for something like a concert band, it's one thing to kind of, write a melody, with some harmonies, but it's another thing to, like I said, assign it to all the different instruments. And what's really cool about that is all the instruments we have available, there's so many different colors and timbres available. And so that's something really cool that someone like myself, who composes, gets to think about and use creative energy to dissect, I guess you could say. So, my music. So, this piece is called Valiance. It was inspired directly by that idea, the theme of balance, of overcoming adversity, of persevering. And that's really what I was hoping to capture in this music. And so my primary theme, pillar number one of composing, we need our melody, right? my theme, I created this fun triplety theme that you'll hear pretty early on in the piece. Will come in the low brass, and then our trumpets shout out back there right away. And so that's our theme. That's kind of the theme of Valiance is what I was going for. And right out of the gate, so when you're considering a piece of music that wants to encapsulate this theme of overcoming adversity, there needs to be some sort of trial, some sort of challenge that we're going to overcome, right? And so what I do right at the beginning of this piece, actually, and I told the students this, is I introduce this impending threat. That's what the beginning of this piece is supposed to sound like. And so in order to accomplish that, I kind of layered some textures together. So back to our techniques that go into composing, right? We've got this melody of the brass that's going to come in. We've got this kind of like fun woodwind motif that you're going to hear right at the beginning. And I've got this driving force of percussion that you're also going to hear. And so kind of layering these different ideas together, these three different ideas in this case, creates a soundscape that I hope that you will agree sounds like there's this impending threat. And so from there, so I kind of have this primary section at the beginning that introduces this impending threat. And by the way, that can be whatever you want it to be. But in my mind, what tends to occur is it's like when you're watching a movie and you see the villain right out of the gate at the beginning of the movie, and he just shows up and destroys a whole planet. So that's kind of what I was going with this. And then in said movie, usually you'll get the flashback, right? You get the title card. 14 months earlier. And it's like, okay, we're going back in time. How did we get here, right? And that's kind of what I was going for, actually, with this piece of music. So we're going to flashback. It's going to get quieter. So the impending threat is gone for now. But I laid the groundwork for that. And that threat will come back later. After we go through some musical character development, we'll face the threat and we'll conquer it. So that's kind of, the narrative of the piece. But to talk a little bit technical once more before I wrap up, it's one thing to introduce the threat at the beginning, but then it's like, okay, we're doing this flashback. What do I do now? I made this really cool groundwork. Where do we go from here? And something that I'll never forget, when I was in Paris, one of my teachers, Philip Lasser, who just so happens to be one of the lead composition faculty at the Juilliard School, I just thought I'd throw that in there for fun. He said to me, don't ask yourself, what do I do now? What do I write now? Ask yourself, what do I do now with this? With what I've already established, the musical ideas I already established, what can I do with that? If you're writing a movie and you have the epic beginning scene, you're not just going to continue on in the movie with completely new characters that don't relate at all to that scene, right? It's actually the same with music. You could argue there's characters in the music. And what I mean by that, more than anything else, is certain motifs. So the triply melody I had mentioned initially, that's something that I've repurposed kind of in the quieter character development stuff you'll hear. So be listening for that. Listen for how does all of the musical narrative relate and coexist in a way that kind of establishes this sort of narrative of balance. And so that's the piece. I look forward to you hearing it. Thanks again for being here. Thanks to Ms. Honeypole and the students.